Silence is not weakness, it's not insecurity, and it's definitely not submission. The most dangerous person in the room is rarely the loudest one. It's the one who doesn't rush to fill every gap with words, the one who doesn't explain himself too much, the one who doesn't react instantly. Most men talk because they feel pressure, pressure to prove, pressure to defend, pressure to be seen. But every unnecessary word lowers your perceived power. Every over-explanation signals doubt. Every emotional reaction gives away leverage. And here's the brutal truth. When you talk too much, you reveal too much. Your insecurities, your need for validation, your fear of silence. Strong men understand something most people don't. Silence creates tension, and tension creates authority. When you pause instead of reacting, people lean in. When you don't rush to answer, people wait. When you don't defend yourself immediately, people question their own attack. Silence shifts the frame. It forces others to step into your space instead of you stepping into theirs. But here's where most men get it wrong. They use silence out of fear. That's not power, that's avoidance. Real power silence is intentional. It's controlled. It's chosen. You're not quiet because you're intimidated. You're quiet because you don't need to compete. There's a difference. One feels small, the other feels dominant. If you feel uncomfortable when a room goes quiet, you don't control silence. Silence controls you. And until you master it, you'll always feel the urge to explain, justify, defend, and prove. The moment someone challenges you, you react. The moment someone doubts you, you talk more. The moment someone disrespects you, you argue. That's emotional dependence, and dependence kills authority. Silence, used correctly, is a filter. It exposes who is confident and who is performing confidence. Because only someone secure can sit still under pressure without filling the air. And here's the paradox. The less you try to dominate conversations, the more influence you gain. People trust calm energy. They respect emotional stability. They follow those who don't look shaken. Silence is not about saying nothing. It's about saying less and meaning more. And if you don't learn this, you'll keep losing power in subtle ways without even noticing it. Most men speak because they're uncomfortable with uncertainty. Silence feels dangerous to them. It feels like losing control. But in reality, silence creates control. When you rush to answer, you give away position. When you rush to defend, you admit vulnerability. When you rush to react, you show emotional exposure. High-level influence isn't about speaking first. It's about speaking last, after everyone else has revealed themselves. Silence forces other people to fill the gap. And when people talk to fill silence, they expose more than they intended. Their intentions, their insecurity, their agenda. The quiet man gathers information. The reactive man gives it away. This is why silence is a power move. It shifts who is chasing and who is observing. If someone insults you and you instantly defend yourself, you validate their attack. If someone questions you and you immediately over-explain, you lower your frame. But if you pause, hold eye contact, and respond slowly, the dynamic changes. The room recalibrates. People start questioning themselves instead of you. Silence under pressure signals emotional control, and emotional control is rare. Most men cannot tolerate being misunderstood for even 5 seconds. They jump in to clarify. They interrupt to correct. They react to every slight. That constant need to manage perception leaks insecurity. Silence communicates something stronger. I don't need to rush. And that pace control is dominance. The person who controls tempo controls the interaction. Fast reactions show emotional dependency. Measured silence shows internal stability. But here's the key. Silence must be paired with presence. If you're silent but your body language collapses, that's weakness. If you're silent but you avoid eye contact, that's insecurity. Power silence is upright posture, steady breathing, direct gaze, no flinching. It's not empty, it's intentional. And most men never practice that. They only practice talking. In the next part, we break down when silence builds status and when it actually destroys it. Because used incorrectly, silence can backfire. Silence is powerful, but only if you understand timing. Because silence used at the wrong moment looks like fear. Used correctly, it looks like control. Most men either talk too much or go quiet at the wrong time. Both lower status. If someone challenges you and you freeze, that's not power, that's shutdown. But if someone challenges you and you pause deliberately, hold eye contact, and respond calmly, that's dominance. The difference is internal state. Power silence is not empty, it's calculated. It's awareness without panic. It's the ability to tolerate the discomfort of a few seconds without scrambling to regain approval. The uncomfortable truth is this: most men cannot handle being misinterpreted for even a moment. The second they feel tension, they rush to explain themselves. They add context, they justify, they overshare. And in doing so, they reduce mystery and increase vulnerability. High-level operators understand something else. Whoever talks more in a negotiation usually loses leverage. Whoever reveals more emotional data loses positioning. Silence forces the other person to guess, and when people guess, they project, they reveal, they lean in. In social dynamics, silence creates gravity. When you don't chase the conversation, others move toward you. When you don't react emotionally, others slow down. When you don't fill every pause, others feel the weight of your presence. But here's the critical mistake. Silence without structure becomes avoidance. If you avoid necessary conversations, you look passive. If you stay quiet when boundaries are crossed, you look weak. If you never assert verbally, you disappear. Silence is not a replacement for strength. It is an amplifier of strength. It works only when backed by clarity and standards. High-status men know when to speak and when to withhold. They don't argue every point. They don't defend every insult. They don't correct every misunderstanding. They choose what deserves energy, and that selectiveness creates value. Scarcity applies to words too. The less you speak impulsively, the more weight your words carry when you do speak. Silence before a response builds anticipation. Silence after a statement builds emphasis. Silence during tension builds pressure, and pressure shifts hierarchy. The man who can sit in pressure without reacting owns the frame. Most men lose authority because they try to win arguments with volume. Power doesn't need volume, it needs composure, and composure is built through controlled silence. In the final part, we'll break down how to train this, how to use silence intentionally so it builds influence instead of making you invisible. Here's the part most men never practice: controlled silence under pressure. Not silence when things are easy. Silence when you're being tested. When someone questions your decision. When someone tries to provoke you. When someone attempts to pull you into emotional reaction. That's where silence becomes a weapon. Because reactions are predictable, silence is not. The moment you stop reacting on impulse, you remove fuel from the situation. You force the other person to confront their own energy without yours feeding it, and that shifts power instantly. Most men lose authority not because they lack intelligence, but because they leak emotion. A raised eyebrow triggers a defense. A sarcastic comment triggers explanation. A challenge triggers argument. That constant emotional leakage lowers perceived control, and control is the core of authority. Silence closes the leak. But here's the deeper layer. Silence is not about saying nothing. It's about deciding what deserves response. When you don't respond to low-level provocations, you communicate hierarchy. You silently say, "This is beneath my energy." That doesn't require arrogance. It requires stability. And stability is rare. The man who reacts to everything looks busy. The man who responds selectively looks powerful. There's another dimension to this: pacing. The person who controls the pace controls the frame. If you speak fast, react fast, answer instantly, you operate on the other person's tempo. When you slow down intentionally, breathe, pause, hold eye contact, you reset the tempo. And whoever sets the tempo sets the psychological tone. Silence buys you thinking space. It protects you from saying things that weaken your position. It allows you to respond strategically instead of emotionally. and strategy always outranks emotion in long-term influence. But remember, silence must sit on top of internal confidence. If you're quiet but anxious, it will show. If you're quiet but shrinking, it will show. Power silence is relaxed, shoulders steady, voice calm when it does come. No rush, no flinch, just composure. That composure is what people remember. Not the loud statement, not the long explanation, the steadiness, the lack of emotional tremor. That's what builds presence. Silence is not passive, it is disciplined restraint. And disciplined restraint signals self-control. And self-control signals power. If you master that, you don't need to dominate conversations. You shape them. And when you can shape interactions without force, you operate from a higher rank without ever announcing it.